So in closing, we're going to go over our Patreon questions before Jim goes through them. Once again, thank you guys, everyone that's supporting us. And if you want to help support us, we are actually currently looking at some exciting prospects for everyone.
Merch!
Yes, merchandise. T-shirts, maybe glasses, a few different things.
Merchandising.
So if you guys have any interest in any of that, please help support us because it will help us turn around those products to you guys.
Brian, when are we going to have Drink a Beer, Play a Game, the Flamethrower? The kids love that one.
Jim, I'll just get a little propane thing, throw a sticker on it, and be like, here you go.
Oh, there you go.
See?
Safe.
It's not up to us to take care of your children.
Exactly. But if you would like to become a patron of the show and submit a question to the Power Hour, which we will answer, link below, www.patreon.com/DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, where for as little as $2 a month, you can ask a question for every episode that we will answer. $1 gets you a shout-out and exclusive content access. $5 and up gives you choice of videos that we can do, thing like that, blah, 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 blah. It all stacks up on the top of each other. Yeah. So links below if you want to check it out and support the page.
$10 a month gets a nude from Jim.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jim, go through our questions.
All right. Question 1 comes from Dean, Game Whisperer. What are your views on world records by playing games for high scores? Stuff like Twin Galaxies, etc.
I'm all for it. I think it makes sense because, especially back in the day with arcades, that was
the only point.
That was the point of them. I mean, that they had almost an arena-esque aspect to them. People huddled around the two best players, especially if it was like a versus game, or if you were just going for the high scores for some of the more classic arcade games. Those games required such skill, and it was really impressive to see someone get that high. I love holding it for that. For current games, doesn't really make as much sense, and I guess really what has become esports is the new version of that, because you just now have arenas with people playing each other in MOBAs or, sorry, my dog's going crazy. But I was all for it for the old games. I think it would be interesting if they made newer games that were catered towards that and bring them back, but it should only work with arcade cabinets. Don't do it online. Like, you got to have an officiating body like you did with Twin Galaxies. So, yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, you actually kind of stole my thunder because I was going to make that analogy to, it was back then esports pretty much. But yeah, I mean, there's a definite spot for it. Did people probably put too much stock into it back then? Possibly, but, the same way not everyone's going to be an esports player these days. Not everyone's going to try and get the perfect score in Donkey Kong back then.
Yeah.
And the level of ridiculous memorization and reflexes that you have to do that.
That's dedication.
More power to you. So it's nothing that I would have ever gone after, but it's cool to watch. It's cool to see. Now you do have places like Twin Galaxies, which has had its share of controversy about it because of, say, Billy Mitchell's alleged cheating or blah, 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 or the standards at which you really judge this kind of crap.
Goddamn them screwing over Steve Wiebe.
Even though since that documentary, God, that's such a good documentary. But even since then, these guys have been trounced by other people too. But
that's not important, Jim.
Right.
Nobody's going to remember the guys who beat those two. That documentary cements it.
Steve Wiebe.
All right. So thank you, Dean. We appreciate that. But that's a good question. I mean, it's interesting, but I truly don't care. But I do find myself, I'll be honest, even like Call of Duty or any games I play now, Dead by Daylight, like, I find myself, if there is a leaderboard, I tend to look at the top just to see, like, who's at the top. We know there's a lot of fuckery a lot of times with people doing shit to get up there.
Yeah.
But it's still, like, something that, as someone, if you're playing anything that could be construed as competitive, you're going to naturally want to see who the top is and see who has the highest score. So
yeah, it was funny for, like, maybe, like, a week or two or so. Like, we took, like, an obscure shooter down on the eShop. And, like, Twitter friends were like, oh, let's see you can get on the top score. And since it was mostly obscure, you could get, like, 2 levels in, and you'd be in the top, like, 20 people on there. So, depending on the game, it's a nice little way to extend your fun with the game, too. Why not? I don't think there's anything bad with it unless, like, anything else you get too obsessed.
I think we should do something like that, and we should make ourselves number 1 on an older game that still has a server alive and try and get in the top 10.
Right, why would we do it with an older game when Panty Party's out right now? I broke him. Yes, finally.
Oh, I got a legit migraine right now. Oh, you fucker.
Ah, got him. Button hooked it.
Just go to the next one, you son of a bitch.
All right. This one comes from my buddy G. Now that the Sonic movie's almost out and a CG Mario movie's in the works, what are some mascot-style game characters that you would like to see get a movie next? Personally, I'd love to see a Sly Cooper movie. Thanks.
For me, I will go... I've probably said it too many times at this point, but I'll go obscure. The Haunting with Poltergeist.
Yeah, that'd be
Make
cool.
it a horror comedy and really just go crazy. If the whole movie CG, like almost like a Monster House or something like that, that's cool. But if you just made him CG, do it kind of like, I guess, Casper the Ghost or something. But I would love that. Make it good for kids, Halloween-y, and just fun and goofy.
Yeah, and probably one I should have put some more thought into. Damn. I don't think I'd like to see, like, say, a Conker, because they don't have to be... It could easily fall into the trap of being, like, too try-hard edgy. It could be, like, Sausage Party, where... Like, Sausage Party's okay, but after the first time you see it, you go, okay, the shock value's gone, that kind of deal. Maybe you want something a little more with lasting power, so... I guess it's easy to just, like, for lack of a better term, just shit out kind of a movie like this with any kind of mascot in it. Like, there's a fucking Emoji Movie, for Christ's sake. But... you got to have one that at least has a cast of characters to it, so I guess an easy one would just be Crash Bandicoot, just because of how many characters are out there, and, you have Professor Neocortex as the big bad guy, and he's, a wacky enough villain that people can like, so I'll say Crash. Seems easy enough.
Okay. Thanks, G.
Yep. Next up comes from Snarcast. God damn it, where'd it go? Hold on a second. I had it, and then I lost it. All right, here we go. So... You guys might hate the Bud Light doing their Dilly Dilly ads, but I hate the ones where they refer to beer as crisp. How is a beer, i.e. beer, soda, anything, crisp? To me, chips and candy bars are crisp, not beer.
So, this is something, after trying as many beers as I had, I can understand when you hear the word crisp, what it refers to, especially with beers like that, because a Pilsner, by definition, is usually something that's supposed to be light, crisp, refreshing. It's supposed to have more of a clean flavor to it. And if you're not a beer drinker, it's one of those things, unfortunately, like you have to try a bunch of different styles and you realize, oh, IPAs, you're never going to say are crisp. Stouts, you're never going to say are crisp. But crisp refers to there's a bit of a tightness and a bite to it that leaves your tongue almost dry. Like there's some beers you drink, you start to salivate a little more. And that's not what a crisp beer does. So a Pilsner is very drinkable because it goes down easily. And it kind of has it's like a bite. It's not a spiciness. Crisp is the best word for it. But it's only, once again, you can only use it if you've never tried beer and you just pick up a Bud Light, Miller Lite. You're never going to drink it and be like, oh, that shit tastes crisp. It doesn't until you compare it to other beers. So that's just more a symptom of the style itself versus... them trying to coin a specific phrase. But, in advertising, a word like crisp, it really sticks in your head, probably like it did for you. So, yeah, I think that's really the purpose of it, but I can understand it. And that's, until you try a lot of different beers, you won't be able to get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yes.
What I was going to say. It's advertiser fuckery. So,
yeah.
I mean, like the sour that we had, even though that was a smoother sour, there's ones out there where you bite and you just go, ugh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, depending on the beer, like some of the harsher, drier ones will get that out of you. Or, like, say you're not used to champagne and you get, like, an extra dry champagne. Mm-hmm. Like, that'll just grab the back of your throat, and that's where you get that crispiness from.
Yeah, the mouthfeel is all about... They have a set number of adjectives you're supposed to use.
Or like gin. If you don't like gin and you never really drink it, like gin can give it to you like that.
Yeah. So, and I will say, although I'm so tired of Dilly Dilly, some of the new commercials for Bud Light, like the one where he's like going platinum and the other one's watching him and he's like...
Bud Light Platinum sucks too.
It's so bad. I haven't tried it. That's not the goddamn point. But I still find myself, and I hate myself for laughing at it. As they're leaving, he's like, "He didn't suspect anything." "Yes, I did." "No, you didn't." Like it gets me every time. Like
I know the one you're talking
about. The other ones are stupid, but when he yells, "Yes, I did," like I don't know, that one actually
because he reminds me of like old Simpsons with like the Prohibition one.
Yeah.
"No, you won't."
Yes,
I will.
Yep, exactly.
Won't.
So, thanks for that Snarcast.
Yeah, that'll pretty much be our only beer talk for this whole episode.
All right, so what's next?
All right, this next one comes from our buddy Astral.
What's up, bud?
Which video game retro console will survive the next decade?
So I think
Little vague.
It's vague, but I think I know what he's trying to say. So I think a system that is
Popularity, maybe?
No. I think it's like what will still get collected for. Like I think the NES is fairly solidified as
It's on a downturn. Like the market for it's going down.
sure, but I still think that will always be a thing people want. Like I could actually see Super NES and Genesis kind of fizzling a little more. Of the consoles, like any CD-based console, I think is kind of screwed. I think N64, that's going to have some staying power over time. Yeah, and basically once you get the Xbox and PS2 territory, because of all the new consoles going to be so backwards compatible, it seems like that's a trend they're keeping up. And even if they're directly not backwards compatible with the actual old CDs, their stores tend to have like updated versions of the old games. So that will automatically kind of kill off the old systems, if you will, because I find myself, even for games for 360, if I can find them on Xbox One on the store, and they're cheap enough, I'm like, well, I'm not going to go buy the physical copy. I'll just get them right here. So the only things that can last, whether Nintendo knew it or not, is with them and their ridiculous gimmick of going from system to system with completely different styles of hardware you have to use. So you can't really get backwards compatibility as easily. So N64, I think, is the start of that, where that will be the last of the retro systems that will last on. Like GameCube, most of those games will probably be able to be emulated with whatever newer systems are. So that'll go away. We know Wii and Wii U, get the fuck out of here. But N64, I think that's...
Well, Brian, the Wii U's already being emulated because half the goddamn games on it are already ported to the Switch.
Because it was stupid to even make it. But, who cares?
Actually, you're going to jerk off to this, but this last Black Friday, just like that, hell of a deal for Wii U's now. They're just getting rid of these shits. So, it took you a couple years to be right, but you can get a Wii U. You were able to get a Wii U online only through GameStop with 3 Zelda games, Wind Waker HD, Breath of the Wild, and Hyrule Warriors for $90.
Jim, I mean, we've covered this a few times on old reviews, but would you call me the Nostradamus of today?
Because Brian, anything can lose value eventually. You can get a Wii for $20 now.
Yeah, but I pretty much hit the nail on the head with the Wii U right off the bat.
Nah, see, it was just
I was right.
It was just a victim of having everything come out on the Switch, so there's no reason to go back to it.
Which was my point to begin with.
That was not your point. You did not know that every single game was going to get ported to the Switch. Don't bullshit.
I just said it, not knowing it. You're right. I just said it and had the foresight to say, this is a terrible idea. Hey, this is a system that can't compete with any current gens, and the gimmick of what it was doing didn't work that well. Oh, but you're developing this thing really close to it. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be successful. I'm sure it's worth putting your money into. And even the terrible deal you got hosed for. So, it makes sense. But no, I think Nintendo is one of the consoles. I would like to say Genesis and Super NES, because of things like, as much as some people might hate them, but these mini console versions
keeps them alive.
That keeps them alive. And now, if somebody buys them and is like, oh, these games are really cool, I like them, let me go back and collect for them. Those are all going to be safe. I think Game Boys will probably go kind of extinct to a degree, except for whatever the newest version of DS is, because same deal, you can probably get an emulated version. I don't see PlayStations, Xboxes, or GameCubes, anything from there or forward, they're not lasting.
Well, you know what? The RPG dorks will keep the PlayStation alive.
But still, even if you're an RPG dork and you have whatever the latest PS version is, and if they're like,
I would almost say the 6th gen stuff, like the PS2, Xbox, GameCube, like you were saying, like so many of those games, like the really standout ones, have been ported again to later systems again and again and again and again and again. So those are almost, there's no reason except for a handful of titles that, never got ported out of there that people aren't going to really care enough to actually go back for. And it'd be like, I just don't know, because of how massively successful, say, something like the PS2 was, that going back to it will be as big a collector market as, say, the 8 and 16-bit eras.
That's what I mean. So that's why I think those 8 and 16-bit era, 8 especially, is just, there's something so timeless about that. Like, even Atari, to a certain collector, it's important, but I see that dying out. I don't see that lasting.
No, I mean, that's already mostly dead. Like, no one cares about Atari collecting except for Atari fans.
Yeah.
And there's a small handful of games with any value to them, really. I mean, most of the games, like, even it's considered one of the, like, more expensive games to collect, like Pitfall 2, and that's only like $15-20.
Yeah.
So, with the exception of, like, your air raids out there and those, like, weird ones where, like, only 5 are ever produced.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be a lot of games out there that are going to be a lot of money. I think, like, I don't know if you'll ever see a collector heyday like you saw for the NES ever again. Because, like, the SNES and the Genesis never hit that.
And they didn't need to. I mean, especially by the time the NES, I think, collecting was at a time really before emulating was so obvious and out there. And especially with eShops and shit, like, it can never be re-emulated, but what I think you will have is a lot of people smart enough to realize while these games get released in newer consoles and values drop for the old hardcover games, then they might go out and say, you know what, let me go and just get all the PS2 games that I really want for pretty dirt cheap. I don't think there'll ever be a point where you have it, but I just think Nintendo's the only one that could kind of live on.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But no, I love that question. I love it's obscure, but I like the question.
Yep. And our final one. Thoughts on comes from us from Eric Glowacki. Thoughts on Half-Life Alyx, the announcement, if any.
I absolutely love the Half-Life games. I did watch a little bit of the footage, and a lot of people are obviously very annoyed that it's a VR game because we've waited so long for Half-Life 3. I don't know what to make of this because of all the companies that do some shit like this, it does make sense Valve would do this to go to VR. And they don't really have a plan for non-VR, so they're really excluding easily, 80% of their fan base?
Oh, yeah. If not more. VR is very niche.
I don't know what the line of thinking is behind that. I mean, the game, it looks good, and I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'm one of those people, when I see a game, it takes me out of the game when you see your hand do stuff. Like, I'd rather see nothing, just see a thing move versus showing me the hand on the screen. And I know they need that for how the VR works, but that kind of takes me out of a game. I'm not going to get it because I don't have VR. And until VR becomes completely, like, stupid affordable and completely reliable and has games like maybe like this is the start of games that will only be VR and it'll be a selling point for VR style systems, I'm never going to play it. So it sucks for me and for most people. I think it's a really bad move, but then again, they've kind of screwed the pooch on giving people what they want because when the hell did the Half-Life 2 come out?
Oh, God, mid-2000s?
Yeah. So, 2004. Yeah, guys, you're 15 years behind the ball on bringing out a game and a series that people absolutely loved. I don't really know. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, I've been on record as to say Half-Life 3 probably should not ever come out because it could be the best game ever and it'll still never live up to the hype.
Never.
But, yeah, I've also come to think of I never really played that much Half-Life. I've played more mods of Half-Life than I did actual Half-Life. But besides the fact, I've seen a lot of people like really, really pissed off that it's VR only, which I get because I know the love that's out there for Half-Life. And people are saying, oh, they completely botched this. Possible. But I will say, if Valve's trying to release their own HD heads VR headset kind of deal, the Valve Index, if you don't want to be like the Oculus Rift or I know the Oculus Quest and the PSVR, those are the most accessible VR headsets right now. Even them, they're still niche in the grand scheme of things. If you want someone to give you a reason to go out and buy a new VR set, you need to have a killer app. You need to have something out there that people are actually going to want to go out to get just to get it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a timed exclusive because it does say that it'll come out on the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift and shit like that. So I don't know the specifics of it, but most people are saying, it's an $800 buy-in pretty much. So I guess that's assuming the game and the Valve index.
It's
that's very, and I mean, I know the HTC Vive's stupid expensive too. So depending on if you want the most quality experience for your VR setup for the game, yeah, you're going to be shelling out a shitload of money if you don't have any VR stuff right now. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea. I think it's a planned risk pretty much, because they know they could easily sell $1 billion if they release a new Half-Life game just on normal Steam.
Which, here's the deal. I have to imagine...
It has a purpose. It has to have come out with a purpose of selling VR
I know
VR
why
sets.
they're doing it, but I think the thing is, I guarantee you in their back pockets, they're going to put this out there. It'll obviously not meet the marks they want it to. And, oh, guys, don't worry. We're releasing a normal version. Like, they're going to make their money back. And that would have been like when they released Resident Evil 7. If they said that was VR only,
right,
that would have pissed me off to no end.
Right.
And it is a VR game, but it also has a standard version. Mm-hmm. Just do that with this. Now, if they truly don't have any plan for it and they truly are not going to do it, well then bye-bye. Whatever their investment was for this, then they fucked up, and no one's the wiser, because it's kind of like they've been dead anyway.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is like, Valve is the biggest, or Steam is the biggest game in town.
Yep.
Steam is the reason why Valve never makes a third game of anything that's popular, because they don't need to. They make money shoveling out other people's shit, and they don't have to do any work anymore.
Yep.
So, like, Gaben has all the money in the world right now. So they really don't need to put out another game. So if they're going to try and enter into another market, it'll make sense to have your flagship title, your flagship IP, be the thing to try and draw people in.
Yeah.
So I think they have such a safety blanket that even if, it isn't the thing that draws people in, no harm, no foul pretty much. But I think the cost-benefit analysis, I guess, in their mind is, this will be the way that we would actually ever get anyone to buy this.
The only thing that scares me about this is if they turn around and now go, okay, well, it kind of works, so we're going to do the same thing for Left 4 Dead, for Team Fortress, for Portal. Like, if they just all of a sudden do that with games and now you can only get them VR, and
which
they force,
would suck. Yeah.
And they force the market, which I hope people out there, you guys wouldn't support that, but that would suck. That would definitely suck.
Yeah, I mean, Portal would be perfect in VR.
Yeah, so, no, that's another good question. It was one I want us to kind of touch on, but I absolutely love the Half-Life series, and it's not my favorite series, but I really enjoyed it, and unless they do a standard, looks like I'm not playing it.
Yeah, I mean, the Orange Box is one of the best compilations of all time. So
yeah, for sure.
I mean, I get the hate though. I get why people are pissed. It's VR only. Yeah. It's your first taste. It's not even like you're getting Half-Life 2 Act 3 or whatever the third, DLC expansion would be.
Yeah.
This is just something different, and it's a different character. I don't know enough about Half-Life to know who Alyx is, so. But yeah, I get the hate, but I see the point of it. I guess since I'm not invested in it, I'm not that mad.
Yeah.
But
that's like if they made a new Star Fox and it was only VR.
Dude, Star Fox hasn't been good in so long anyway that it doesn't really matter.
It's never that good to begin with.
How dare you, sir?
So thank you guys for the question.